What's up, my locos? Loco, right? Going alive. Try to get this shit right. All right. I think we're ready to roll, man. I think we're rolling live. Are we rolling live? Say live. Shit. Looking sharp like a motherfucker. So, OG Loco. OG Loco's back. What's up, my locos? Thanks for following the channel. Please like and subscribe. OG Loco, Old Family Reds. I'm going to take you on a little ride today on the wild side because we keep it real. We don't talk shit. We just keep it real and talk the truth. So we're going to have a little fun. Hopefully some people will load up right now before I get started. Take a little sip of my OG Loco brand. That's local. You could order these. Not for everybody. You got to be an OG. If you're a real OG, you can sport this and not be scared to wear it. You're gonna get checked. You know, that's reality. You can't have original gangster tattoos, and you can't be sporting OG tattoos unless you're about the life, because you're gonna get fools that are gonna try and check you. It happens. It sort of comes with the territory. And it is what it is. You just gotta be prepared for it. But if you can live it, hold your own, then you earn it. You know, that's just the way it is. OG. Locos. You gotta be a little local. So today we're gonna feature the legend, OG Scooby. He's a living legend. He's a pure OG local, old family red, and this is a game dog, and he bangs, man. And we're gonna talk about gameness today. We're gonna talk about the theory and myths of gameness, and it's going to be a little controversial, but this is what it's for. I sort of did a little live on Facebook earlier what I was going to talk about today on YouTube. I want to create topics that will start discussion. So what I'm presenting are some myths and theories about gameness and breeding that I think it's important for the pit bull community to listen. You don't have to agree, but have intelligent conversations about these topics. Because I don't think we really have a good understanding of when people are speaking on the topic of what perspective or where they're coming from. So everyone's going to have a different perspective, and I'm a big believer. Five people could see the same thing and have five different perceptions of what just occurred in front of them, and they're all telling the truth, but they're all going to be different. And that's why it's important to have different perspectives on the topic. You got to see it from your opponent's point of view, because there is no such thing as right or wrong answers. What there is a such thing is we make decisions based on the best available information at that time. So presenting the best available information that is what your knowledge is limited on, is that information. As you grow mentally and emotionally, and you learn more and you grow, then your perspective is going to change. So you might see things differently uh, now than you did in your younger years, because you didn't have those experiences, you didn't have that knowledge. So part of today, I speak just purely entertainment and educational purposes only. I do not promote organized dog fighting or illegal dog fighting, but this is a fighting breed. So we are going to get into some of the history of dog fighting and how these dogs were bred and how I'm using them today in legal activities under the law. So I just want to make that clear. Uh, that doesn't mean these dogs are not game and they're not true to their genetics. It just means I've taken those traits that they were bred for and I'm applying them in a legal capacity in today's times. So having said that, we'll get a little started a little bit. But before I get started, I always like to share some philosophy because I think times are changing. Um, And I think it's important that we pass these old values on to the new generation before they're lost. And hopefully people will value them and learn from them and apply them. So I said this in the Facebook on free speech. This is my only political statement I'm going to get into because I'm not a political person. I'm an independent. Meaning I'm independent in politics. I don't get involved in politics. Everything I do is independent. I do what's in my best interest of me and my family. So that's what an independent is. I don't do what I'm told. I research the issue. I do my own analysis, objective analysis, and then I make the best decision independent of anyone else's influence, what's best for me and my family. And that's what an independent is. Uh, I don't take orders. I don't just do what I'm told. I question, I question what I'm told, and then I evaluate. So the purpose of free speech, and this is why I want to get into this topic, knowledge is power, okay? So the more knowledge you have, the more power you have because uh, you have uh, you're able to see things and more in depth and more knowledgeable than other people. So in order to gain knowledge, you have to be well rounded in the topic. That means you have to be able to see it uh, from all perspectives, from your opponent's perspectives, from different perspectives, and you have to be objective. You don't have to agree with it, but you have to learn from it. And once you understand it, then you can take some value from your opponent's perspective and then apply it to your own decision making. So that's what knowledge is. And that's why it's important to have free speech, and that's why it's important to have different topics, different perspectives. We shouldn't all agree. We shouldn't all be the same. We should all have different experiences because we all have different life experiences, and that's what makes us unique as Americans. So that's my 2 cents on free speech and knowledge. You get rid of free speech, then you get rid of knowledge, and then the people suffer. And I'll wrap this up on this political thing. Yeah, they don't teach cursive in school no more. So my kid cannot, my 16-year-old son cannot sign. So I was like, well, if you can't sign because you don't know cursive, uh, how can you read the Constitution? It's written in cursive. And he goes, well, they type it out for you now. And I was like, yeah, they interpret it for you now. You got to be able to read the original documents. It'd be like reading the original Bible in the original tablets and scripts, scrolls, and being able to read it firsthand versus someone interpreting for you. So that's just my 2 cents on what's going on in society. But let's talk about being an American. I'm a proud American, fourth generation American, and I love this country. I love the freedoms, and I've been very lucky in life to uh, be able to do those things in life. Go over there. Go get away from the dog. Go over there. Sorry about that. Keep her away from OG Scooby. I'm going to be pulling him on set pretty soon. Um, go. Um, so, talking about freedom, being a proud American and why it's important if you love to, if you are a patriot and you're born in this country and loving this country. I have 2 examples that sort of influenced me on that. Um, One was my grandfather on my mom's side. Uh, believe he was born in the U.S. I think he was born in the U.S., but his parents were probably from Mexico. But they came from El Paso, Texas. So their families, my mother's family, goes back to El Paso, Texas, uh, when El Paso and Juarez were one community that belonged to Mexico. So when the Mexican-American War was finished and they divided Texas into Mexico and America, their family was already in the United States, so therefore they were able to get citizenship. Uh, at least that's the story that I was told. So he was an American. Um, I don't know exactly where he was born, but when my grandfather They moved from Texas to Baldwin Park, California, I think in the 50s, 1950s. They lived in right there in the barrio. And he was a heavy equipment operator. He worked for Owl, I think. He worked for one of the gravel sites down there in the San Gabriel Valley for years. And he used to tell me when I was a kid that this is why I believe he was born in America, because he used to tell me as a kid, he goes, I don't agree with these Mexicans that come from Mexico that won't learn English. He goes, if you're going to succeed in this country, you need to know English. And so he was very proud that he learned the language, and he really instilled it that you had to learn the language and be an American. And he held a good job for actually for years. And that was instilled as me as a little child, is be an American. If you're an American, be an American, and be proud of being American. And so that started with me. And then the other influence in my life was my stepdad. And this one really, my stepfather, this one really made an impact on me. So my stepfather was born in Germany, and he fought in World War II against the Germans. He was in the Navy. He was one of the last surviving World War II veterans, and he was very proud American. And I can't recall. I think the story told me his family left Germany because they opposed the Nazis, and then they came to America, and then he joined the military and he fought against the Germans. But he was always a proud American. And we fly the American flag here at the house in honor of him, in honor of us being proud Americans. We fly the U.S. Navy flag because he was in the Navy. And those were two influences in my life. And I always felt, here my stepfather, he was a good influence. He was a good man. I mean, when you can say like you had a good father and then you had a good stepfather, good men in your life that influence you, I think that's a lot to say. But my stepfather was a very proud American, and he was an example of being an immigrant and then going to war against his country, and then where he was born, and then being proud to be an American, and flew that with that honor till the day he died. And he passed away about 7 years ago. But those are my two examples that influenced me in being a proud American. My grandfather, my father, and my stepfather. So all of them were proud Americans. So I try to promote that with my children. It's not perfect, but it's still better than a lot of countries out there, and still be proud that we live in one of the better countries in the world, and we're fortunate and blessed. So that's my 2 cents on that. So let's get into the dogs a little bit. Where I want to start with? Do I want to start with gameness? I want to start with Scooby. I think this will all. I just talk, man. So I'm just going with the flow. This is educational. This is entertainment, and this is all hypothetical. Okay, so everything I'm speaking about is hypothetical on the genes and breedings of these dogs. No one's engaging in illegal activities today, so I want to make that clear. But gameness. Let's talk a little bit of gameness, and then I'll go into my firsthand knowledge of my dogs. How I learned what gameness is in the American Pit Bull Terrier. And gameness applies to other species too. It's just not a fighting gameness. Gameness just means the willingness to not quit. So when you're game and whatever you're bred or whatever you do, you don't quit no matter what. You'll die before you quit. And it's a trait that they don't know if it's genetic. We believe it's genetic, but it's such a rare trait that it's hard to capture. But once you capture it in your gene pool, you try to line breed off it, and because once you lose it, it's hard to get it back. And I think that's what the original breeders of the American Pit Bull Terrier were doing. They were able to capture this gameness trait that they were looking for in their fighting dogs, dogs that would not quit no matter what. Um, and they would die before they would quit. And then they were able to line breed off that and keep it in the American Pit Bull Terrier breed. So that's what gameness is. You see it in racehorses. You know, there are racehorses that'll run till their heart pops. There are racehorses that run harder when another racehorse gets next to it because that gameness kicks in. They don't want to quit. They don't want to lose. You see it in hunting dogs that they'll hunt until their paws are raw and they can't move no more. They won't quit a hunt. So gameness is one of those traits, and you see it in people too. They just won't quit no matter what. They'll die. And I guess the easiest example, we know gameness is in fighting. You see it in all kinds of professional sports. But I think in real life, where I've seen gameness, I guess it's sort of an example of gameness. As I work out at the gym, I try to stay active, especially the older I get. And the gym I work out, people have died, you know, especially the people like in their 80s. And they just basically die working out, like on a treadmill or a bicycle. Their heart just gives out. So they were just working out and the heart stops and they die. You know, it happens. I wouldn't say it happens a lot, but it has happened. And, you know, the question is, well, these people lived their life till the very end. They didn't quit. They didn't just sit on a couch and quit. They worked out and, you know, they went until their heart gave out. And the reason I'm bringing up that example, that's going to lead into my myths and theories of canine pit bull gameness. And we'll jump into that. So, and this is for the sake of argument. It's not whether you agree or disagree. It's to start a discussion. This is why I'm doing this. To have people think and then take what I say and maybe have discussions with other forums and groups and really get into an in-depth discussion. Do we really know gameness? And this is seeing it from all perspectives and questioning it. You know, we have gameness as humans in that's our perception of what the dogs are going through, but we're not dogs. So we don't know what the dogs are experiencing. We just see our perception of what they're experiencing. And we take human traits and try to apply it to dogs that they see it the same way we do. We know they don't. And to all the animal lovers out there, dogs are not humans and they do not have human feelings. So sorry to say that, but that's the truth. You can't uptake human feelings and apply them to animals. Animals are a different species and they see things and feel things differently than humans. So that's a fact. So in the dog's gameness, we basically humans, at least in the pit bull community, a dog that quits is a cur. A dog that doesn't quit is game. Okay, and we made it pretty simple. So a dog that, let's say back in the days, it fought for 3-4 hours, and then it finally quits at 4-hour mark. Well, that's a cur. It quit. Really? You know, or a dog that never fights. It just curls up and tucks its tail and it just snaps and doesn't want to engage at all. Well, that's a cur. So I've always struggled with that definition. A dog that quits is a cur. And then a dog that dies scratching is dead game. I mean, that's the ultimate. It dies scratching into another dog. And that's the ultimate. It scratched to its death. It didn't quit. But I'm going to throw this theory out there. Let's say all dogs are curs. They will all stop. They will all quit eventually because they're biological beings. They're not machines. And those dogs that died dead game died before they quit. They died before their time of quitting. Had they gone another 20 minutes, another hour, they might have quit, but they died before that happened. So if you believe as living species or living mammals, that they're not machines, then that means every animal, every pit bull has a time clock on it, that it can only go so far, so long, and take so much punishment before its body gives out on it and it quits, it stops. And then we would call that a cur. Um, when I came into the dogs back in the late 80s, early 90s, to me, a cur was a clear definition of a dog that curd out. It didn't want no smoke at all. And it would tuck tail, it would snap, it would curl up, it wouldn't engage. And it just didn't want, it would cur, it was a cur. It didn't want nothing. It was like, hey, I'm out of here. You know, it's gonna run. It's gonna not defend itself. It's gonna just not want no smoke at all. That's a clear case of a cur. Okay, and those were the dogs you didn't want to breed. You didn't want to breed dogs that, especially if you were breeding fighting dogs back in the day, that were true curs, because they don't have that game trait. So then, if you use that as the clear definition of a cur, then if a dog is game, it's born game. The question is, how deep is its gameness? Okay, and this is where it's going to get controversial. And that's good. I want that to be controversial. I want that to be discussion within the pit bull community. So as long as the dog engages, that means it's not a cur. It engages. Uh, it engages in battle. Okay, you can say that dog's game. You know, that dog is game because it engages in battle. It's not cur. It's not afraid of battle. Now, once it engages, then the question is, how deep is that gameness? So, okay, it engages for 5 minutes, it engages for 10 minutes, it engages for a half hour, engages for 3 hours, 4 hours, or engages all day. Uh, so the question is, how deep is the dog's gameness? You can say the dog's game, it may quit, but it just wasn't deep game. Or you can say the dog has, it's moderately game. It's like, uh, or you can say the dog goes on and on and on, and it's deep game. If the dog dies before it quits, then it's dead game. That means the dog died game. But that doesn't mean if the dog hadn't died, 8 hours later, it would have eventually quit. And I'll get into my theory on these myths, why I think all animals will quit. Um, Dogs or living things, dogs especially, and I'm talking within the pit bull community, uh, biologically quit for different reasons. Okay, in dog fighting history, what you didn't want was a dog that quit out of fear. It didn't want no more. It took a beating, and it doesn't want no more. It quit. That's a cur. It's like, okay, you quit because you quit out of fear. You quit that you didn't want no more of the punishment you were taking, and that was considered a cur. It might have started off game, and you could say, yeah, it was a game dog. It started off, but it wasn't deep game because it quit because it was afraid of taking punishment. It was afraid of the battle ongoing, so it curred out. We called it curred out. Started off game, but curred out. It wasn't a cur because he did engage. He just wasn't deep game. And you'll see that deep game dogs, uh, until they meet that one opponent. You'll see, yeah, it was a deep game dog. Then it meets this one opponent, and for whatever reason, it quit. And you don't know why. But let's get into the theories why dogs quit. Why does a deep game dog eventually quit on a different opponent, but it didn't quit on anything else that it went into? And a lot of that is uh, competition. You know, uh, the stiffer you go into your competition, and the harder it gets for that dog. So, getting in that theory, uh, Earl Tudor used to say, for every battle a dog got in, you take something out of it. Okay? So what happens is, as a dog gets wounded in battle, and those wounds heal, uh, in the next battle, those are the first wounds that reopen on the dog, especially if it took a lot of punishment in the first battle. So those wounds are going to open up instantly in the second battle. And then every time you take that dog out and you put it through punishment, you taking something out of that dog. So, a dog that's been matched in history 20, 30 times, uh, probably was unbeatable the first 2, 3 times out, but 20, 30 times you've taken so much out of it, it may quit because its body can't take it no more. Because you take a little bit out of that dog. And spirit too, a little bit of its spirit out. Scooby's like, get me off this, I want to get on the live. So, um, dogs also quit when they run hot. Okay. Is that truly quitting? I don't know. I saw this once years ago. Uh, Dogs were on a hog, and they didn't have a lot of mouth, so they weren't doing damage. But they would get at the hog. This went on all day. I mean, like all day, like from morning to afternoon. Then they would run hot, and they'd go out of hold, and they would sit there. And then hot, pant, 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 take a rest. And then as soon as they cooled down, they would re-engage. And they did this all day. But because they didn't have a lot of mouth, they weren't really doing damage. And they were loving it because no one was making them do this. They would just do this, run hot, take a break, cool down. When they cooled down, they would re-engage again, run hot, cool down. So the question was, okay, in a cur dog, the cur dog would not want no more smoke. It would just like, I'm not going to engage no more. But then the question is, in pit bull community in a match, because that dog, let's say, didn't scratch in 10, 15 seconds, it took a break. Well, he's a cur. He quit. Well, I don't know. If the dog cools off and he re-engages on his own, scratches in to the hog again, he didn't really quit. He just stopped because he got hot. He got tired. So that always made me wonder, if gameness is something that it's in you. It's the way you're wired is like, yeah, I'm going to go and take it to my limits, and then I'm going to take a break, but I'm not going to truly quit as soon as I get my second wind or I cool off or, I'm going to re-engage because this is what I love doing. I'm game. That's one theory. That's one perspective. I don't have to agree with it, but that's one way to look at it. We as humans, we put a time clock on them. If you can't scratch in 10 seconds, you're a cur. Well, I don't know. Why didn't he scratch? Did he run hot? When a dog runs hot, they can't see. It's like someone overheating, getting heat stroke. What happens when you get heat stroke? You can't see, your vision's blurred. Uh, you don't have all your thoughts. Sometimes you're lost, like, where am I? And another thing that happens to dogs is blood sugar. If the blood sugar drops, as you spend a lot of energy, your blood sugar drops. If you didn't have enough energy in you and your blood sugar drops, you can die. Maybe that's why a dead game dog dies in scratch. I know there's a theory. It could be his blood sugar dropped because he scratched and then his blood sugar dropped and they die. So if your blood sugar drops, I think below 30, you die. Diabetics are known for that. Is they die when their blood sugar drops below 30. They go into a coma and they die. So if you take too much insulin, your blood sugar drops and you die. So those are things to think about. In a dog that's in a competitive match, if the blood sugar drops, he can die. You might say it's dead game. It could just die because his blood sugar dropped. Had his blood sugar not dropped and he didn't die game, how long would it take for him to quit? So there's another theory. Dogs that lose blood pressure die. If you lose too much blood, you can't compete, you can't go no more, and then that dog could possibly quit because it can't function. And then that would be viewed as a cur because it quit. It just couldn't go, it didn't scratch to its death. Um, so there's a lot of things that happen to these dogs in competition in history to why they stopped that we would view it being a cur. But they didn't quit out of fear, because that's what, to me, what a cur is. A dog that quits out of fear. It doesn't want no more smoke. It just, like, I can't take this no more. I'm done. I want out. I'm jumping the wall. I'm out of here. That's a cur. But a dog that quits because it can't go no more, there's something biologically happening to it that it can't control because they're mammals, something going on with their bodies, low blood sugar, going into shock, uh, low blood pressure, internal bleedings, stuff we can't see. If that dog stops, we call it a cur. I don't know. Did it quit because it was afraid, or did it quit because it couldn't go? Something else was going on, and I think that's what we don't know. Um, Dogs that quit on top. There's a lot of champions that won their championship because the dog they went into quit on top. They didn't make that dog quit. They didn't punish that dog. That dog didn't quit out of fear. That dog, when a dog quits on top, it loses interest. So what you're saying is that dog that quits on top, on all fours, it's dominating. It's whipping your ass. And it just stops. It says, like, I don't want to do this no more. He just wasn't deep game. He was game. He just wasn't deep game. He wasn't a finisher. He didn't go in to finish you. So how can you say, hey, I'm a champion because that dog quit on top? He didn't make it quit. It's not like you punished it. It's not like you were putting so much punishment on this that that dog said, I don't want no more. I'm out of here. I'm jumping the wall. I'm curring out. I'm gone. That's where you have to look at, if you truly want to brag about your dog being a deep game dog and a champion, you have to say that dog brought the curness out of its competition. He made a game dog quit. And that's what you're saying. Is this dog was so bad, he made a game dog quit, and respect to the game dog that quit because he took it all. He took it till he couldn't take no more. And that's where we're missing in the dog community. We're calling everyone a cur, but if the game dog is game, he just met a better competition and he quit. What makes your dog great is he beat a game dog. He made a game dog quit. He made a game dog corral. That makes your dog a great dog because he did something that most other dogs couldn't do. And that's something to be proud of. And you give credit to your opponent. Is, man, you brought the game to me and my dog earned it. And the way he earned it, because you were a great dog. You beat a great dog, or you made a great dog corral, where most other dogs could not do that. And that's what we don't see in the community. We don't see what these dogs go through. Gameness isn't how long it went. That's conditioning. You could be a superior athlete and not have heart, because heart can only be tested under adversity. What did you go through? What did you take to win? What did you take? What type of punishment did you take? That's gameness. That's why they used to say you could never really test a strong dog's gameness, because that dog was so powerful, so strong, it was never put in a position of adversity where it took punishment. Gameness, you have to take punishment. You got to be getting your ass mopped all over the floor, where most dogs would quit. but you dig deep in your heart, in your soul, and you go somewhere that nowhere else goes, and you come back and you scratch and you say, ding, ding, we're not done. Because I'm in here till the end. And that was what gameness is. So when you're evaluating your dogs and hog hunting, and I'm talking legal activities, I was talking history back in the day. It's your standard. It's like, well, how much does a dog got to prove to me that he's a game dog? Everyone's going to have a different standard. Everyone's going to say, like, this is what my dog needs to prove to me to be a breedable dog in my program. That's game enough for me, you know. And I'll tell you why. To be a great fighting dog back in the day, gameness was only one element to winning. So if I said the only trait I'm breeding for is deep gameness, game dog, they have no other traits. Well, those were some of the early red boy dogs. They were called stupid game, dumb game. That those dogs were just game. That's all they were. They were going to keep coming. As a matter of fact, they went into what we call a zombie mode. That's why they were called dumb game, stupid game. Somewhere in their brain, they they were just going through the motions of they just kept coming like a zombie. But they were getting killed in the pit because they didn't have any defense, they didn't have no mouth, they didn't have any other things to win. They were just in there sort of like a crash dummy. They were like crash dummies. They were just going to keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, and they were going to die. And a lot of them got killed that way. And I think I read a story once. There was something in the brain that goes off. So I don't know if it's heart, like, true gameness is you got heart. Like you're scratching no matter what, you're losing, you're gonna die, but you're still scratching. But you still have all your mental capacities going on that you're still aware of what's happening. And they say a dog that scratches with fire in its eyes on focused on its opponent with tunnel vision and then scratches and dies was a dead game dog because he overcame all the adversities and still scratched to his death. But a dog that mentally goes into another zone and he's just going through the motions, then there's something else going on in the brain that the dog loses all survival instincts. It just keeps coming. And that was something that I think I read a while back uh, that was true of many of the early dogs. So when you crossed them out, it cleaned that up. You got rid of the stupid gameness or the dumb gameness, or what I call the zombie effect in these dogs, that they're just in a zombie mode. They just keep coming. They just keep coming. But for a dead game dog, that he has fire in his eyes, that he's going to scratch to the end, and he still wants that smoke. Well, that dog's going to scratch to his death. And then if you're a good breeder handler and you see, hey, I can let this dog die to prove he's dead game, or I could say, no, this dog's gonna die. I'm gonna pick him up because he's willing to scratch to his death. Okay, and he becomes a valuable asset to your program because now you want to line breed off him. You might say, like, he didn't have the greatest mouth, he didn't have the greatest fighting ability, but that dog was game. So you know what I'm going to breed him to? I'm going to breed him to a dog that does have mouth and has better fighting ability. He's going to bring that gameness. Now I have a better package. And that's the way the old dogs were bred, is they didn't call game dogs that were losers or game losers. If that dog was scratching and he was taking a beating and he was getting punishment and he was getting his ass whipped, the owner picked him up because I can't win this. I'm into a better opponent. Hey, it's a gamble. He was a better opponent. He beat me on this day. But that doesn't mean my dog's bad. I'm going to save him and I'm going to breed off him and I'm going to produce better dogs. I'm going to take that heart he has and I'm going to add mouth, wind, and ability and produce now a whole package. Because without that gameness, you don't got a dog. All you have is an athlete. And if the athlete could be a superior athlete, you could have dogs that are superior athletes at a perfect specimen of athletic ability, that they have no weakness, yet they have no heart. That dog will quit. When he's put on a superior athlete opponent on him, he will quit. Because as long as he can dominate, as long as he's in control, his superior athletic ability will allow him to win. But you put him in adversity to where he's met an opponent who's equally or better than him, that's punishing him, he will quit if he has no heart. And that's where you don't really know. That's why gameness must be tested. How much punishment does a dog take before it quits? So that's my theory. I think these are topics to talk about. Those are some of the things I've read on, I've seen on, and how does that play into modern dogs and hog hunting and stuff like that. But that's what the breed was built on. So, you can't change the past, you can't change history. That's what happened. That's how these dogs were tested, and that's how they were bred and developed. So I'm going to bring the legend on, OG Scooby, and let's talk about him, his gameness, and his sire's gameness, and why he plays an important role. So let me get him real quick. Okay, so OG Scooby, he's 7.5 years old. Come on, buddy. Let me get him. Here he is. He's a living OG. OG Scooby, a pure OG Loco old family red. This dog is game. I wouldn't say he's the most talented dog, but this dog is game. I mean, he bangs. And when I talk about gameness, what I look for in my dogs is consistency. That Scooby, he's 7.5 now, is consistent in gameness. That he scratches, he engages, he wags his tail, and he loves what he does, and he does it every time. He's never shown a bad move. Scooby will probably die game. He would probably die game because he loves what he does. He's just a game dog. And that's what you look at for these dogs is, okay, he's a game dog. He's going to bang, no matter what. And that's why I can't let Scooby loose, because the first thing he's going to do is go to one of the males and he's going to hit him because he likes to fight. He just likes to fight. He gets along with the females. He loves the girls. But the other males, he loves to fight. And I mean, Scooby takes an ass whipping too, and he still loves it. He's just a game dog. And I don't encourage my dogs to fight, but this is why I keep my dogs on chains, because if they do get loose, they're going to fight because they like to fight, But I've taken that trait in Scooby, OG Scooby here, and he's a great hunting dog because he won't quit a hunt. So we go out hunting, he's going to be hunting. He don't care. He likes the action. He likes action. And this is the one thing I noticed about Scooby. He likes the pups, okay? And this is the scare. I guess not scary, but something you need to be aware of. So he'll play with the pups, and he gets along with them. But let's say one of the other dogs starts roughing up a pup, and the pup starts showing weakness. Well, that's going to trigger his prey drive, and he'll try to get the pup. And I seen that with Scooby. He's a cool, chill dog, but whatever triggers him, he has a switch. And when that switch goes off, he don't care no more, and he's out banging. So I've noticed that with him. He's like, okay, you're cool, but if he sees weakness or scaredness or whimpering or crying, or a dog that's, I guess if he sees curness, something like a dog doesn't want no action, he's going to jump on it. And that's the predatory nature of Scooby. and it runs in a lot of my dogs. Um, I have certain dogs that you just can't even get a pup near them; they're going to hit it. Scooby's one that he'll leave it alone as long as it doesn't show weakness. He'll leave probably females alone as long as they show weakness. I've seen like the females get into it, and then uh, he tag teamed one of them. Like he just couldn't help himself. Uh, so as long as that's not going on, he gets along. But that's Scooby. He's just a game dog, and he's a pure family red, pure OG Loco family red. He has the red nose, dark copper with the gold eyes and toenails, red toenails. So the Olvo family reds that came over from Ireland were described that way. They were known for deep gameness, and they were so family bred on Ireland that they started showing the recessive red traits. And then the American breeders, Bill Leitner and Colby and a few other breeders, Corcoran, some of the early Irish breeders, because they were from Ireland, they got these Irish dogs and started line breeding off them and created their own family of dogs. And then you had Bob Hemphill, who took the old Leitner dogs and he line bred off those to create the Hemphill family red-nosed dogs. And then you had other breeders, the Wilder, Jake Wilder, and even Bert Klaus. He bred some Hemphill Klaus dogs off of them. So those dogs, all the way to where Scooby is, he's line bred, family bred back to all those dogs. Straight back, direct lineage to the original Irish old family reds that came to America in the late 1800s. And he's a replica of what those dogs look like. Okay. And he's small too. He's actually not a very big dog. And the original family reds that came from Ireland were small, gamey dogs. Even though the Hemphill dogs, or the Leitner dogs, I believe, Centipede was like a 50-pound dog, and Leitner got out of them because they were running too big for his taste. But Scooby is on the smaller side, probably, I don't know, maybe 40s, low 40s right now. He can get heavy, but his regular weight is probably low 40s, and he's not very tall. But he's just a good game dog. So he plays an important role in my program. I'm trying to get some pups off him before he gets too much older. He's 7.5. I don't know how many more years I'll get off of him. But he's not only is he a game dog, he produces game dogs. So his genes are passed on to his kids and grandkids and their game. So when you're dealing with a family of dogs, you're able to see gameness passed on. That I could see all the way to the great grandparents of these dogs. Yeah, they were game dogs. And I see them in my dogs today, and then I see them in the young dogs. That trait has been passed on. They're game. You know, they all have that same gameness. They will bang. They're hunting dogs. They will work. And it becomes sort of a family thing because I've line bred off those genetics. But let me tell you, his sire. So OG Jew was what I call the epitome of gameness, what I saw. And OG Jew started off as I wouldn't say a cold dog. He was one of my dogs that he was inbred of OG Bull, his sire. But he started late. He used to get his ass whooped by the other dogs in the yard. Like I was gonna put him down. I was like, he's a cur. I mean, he was really didn't defend himself. The brothers he would just belly up, you know, show his belly, didn't want no smoke, and I was like, oh man. But when he hit about 2.5 years old, something clicked in Jew, man. He started, it just, that switch went off in him. And he started killing everything on my yard. He was hitting males, females, killing pups. He was killing everything. He was one of those pit bulls that when he was a full grown male, like by the time he was 3, you couldn't let any dog get near him. He was going to hit. And he required a lot of responsibility. And that was OG Jewel. But he was killing so many of my pups. Okay, people. Gotta figure this stuff out. Do this YouTube stuff. Let me get in the shade so it won't get hot. Am I live still? There we go. All right. So I'm gonna have to finish this in the shade. Where was I? Okay. So going back to where I left off, I had to tie OG Scooby off. Sorry about that, people. I'm on a roll right now, so I want to finish what I'm saying. I'd put OG Scooby back on the chain too, so hopefully his phone don't run hot no more. But I'll pick up where I left off. So OG Jew. So OG Jew showed me in my breeding program what deep gameness was. So I took him out on a hog hunt because what he was doing a lot of damage in my yard. And I was just like, all right, we're going to see how much heart you have. So I went and got a big old rough hog. And I said, I'm going to push him to the limit. Or, I'm going to push him to where, to his limit on the hog and see if he'd scratch. So I had to find out. I had to find out if he was an aggressive dog or if he was truly deep game. And that's one of the things you don't know about these hunting dogs is, are they just mean? And that's why they're killing everything, or they really have heart and they have deep gameness. So I took him out and, let him go for a hog hunt. And that hog, was whopping him, man. This was one-on-one. He was getting his ass whopped by this hog. To the point where he ran hot and he wasn't defending himself no more. Jew he would just scratch and I'll take him down and just start punishing him. And Jew was just laying there, like not defending himself. So I thought he was going to quit. I didn't think he wanted anymore. And the last time, you tried to scratch him a few times and he was scratching good. Then the last time it was like, oh, he's done. He was just laying there, just huffing and puffing, and he was exhausted. He didn't want no more. He wasn't defending himself at all. So I picked him up. I thought he was going to quit. And I go, okay, he's going to quit. He's done. And Drew came back to life. It was crazy. He came back and on 3 legs, he scratched that hog and scratched like, I don't know, maybe 10 yards. It was a pretty far scratch. On 3 legs, hobbled over there and grabbed the hog. And I was like, I cannot believe this dog came back from the dead and scratched. And that was it for me. I was like, that's a dead game dog. He didn't die. He almost died. He would have died. He would have died dead game. But he was going to die because he wasn't going to quit. He just kept coming and coming and coming. And I picked him up and I said, no, he's a good dog. That's a game dog, deep game dog. I didn't need to prove he was a dead game dog. I didn't want to lose him because he had proven to me that he had heart. And so anyway, I bred off OG Jew, and that line of dogs I have of OG Jew are all the same. Everyone I talk to that has an OG Jew dog, which Scooby's the son of him, and there's some other ones, they said those dogs are very game dogs, that he passed on that trait. They're all known for deep gameness. They're all known, they like to smoke for whatever reason. And the only thing I could think of is why the Jew dogs are a little different
is he was inbred off his sire OG Bull, and OG Bull was a straight up serial killer. I mean, I told the story about him before, but OG Bull was no joke of a dog. So by doubling up on Bull's genes and Jew, a Jew was just like his sire, if not, he might even been deeper game, more game than his sire. And Jew has passed those traits on to his children and grandchildren, great grandchildren now. So a lot of my dogs, I always look for, do they got Jew blood in them? Because that blood's it's gonna be hotter. They're gonna be more serious dogs. And I try to think, well, why? Why are those dogs different than my Kratos and Ruger dogs, which are his half brothers? Well, OG Bull was heavily line bred OG's 44 Magnum, and OG 44 Magnum was heavily on the Hempfield Klaus blood. And I've said this before, my dogs are different than a lot of the old family reds because I'm heavier on the Hempfield Klaus blood than the Hempfield Wilder blood. So most of the pure old family reds that are out there, or old family reds that are out there, are pure Hempfield Wilder dogs. And those dogs tend to be taller, leaner. Uh, I would say they're not as aggressive. That's just my opinion. They're just good dogs, but the Hempfield Klaus blood tends to be more aggressive dogs. They tend to be built differently. They're going to have heavier bone and thicker hides, and they're going to be more aggressive. And I believe that's why the Hempfield Klaus line has been a successful line in modern day fast lane bred dogs. So if you have any Klaus blood in your dog, that is has Hempfield Klaus in it because Bert Klaus bred Skaggs Firefly, which was a pure Hempfield dog, to Klaus's Stabber, and he created his a lot of his Klaus dogs off that. So if you have any of those Klaus dogs, they're going to run in a lot of the Patrick dogs. You're going to see Stabber bred to Firefly. You have Hempfield Klaus blood. So that Hempfield Klaus blood is uh, I think is different than Hempfield Wilder blood. I think it's better. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's better. If you're looking for rough working bred dogs, you want that Hempfield Klaus blood. It's proven, crossed on Tombstone Bolio and even Eli blood. It produces fast lane working dogs, top notch, world class dogs. There's a lot of SGA champions that were crossed on the Hempfield Klaus stuff. A lot of the otter stuff that's out there. The Grand Champ Hellbin was out there. Croc, I think Croc was one of them. There's a lot of that Hempfield Klaus stuff. And even in my 44 Magnum stuff, James Crenshaw crossed it with Tojo and produced a line of dogs off that went on to produce dogs. So that Hempfield Klaus blood, when crossed on modern blood like Eli Tombstone Bolio, tends to produce world class blood. And I see it in my pure stuff is I can see why these dogs are game. They're more aggressive. They're built like tanks. They're rugged. And when you add modern blood to it, it clicks and they work at a very high level. So that's something I see a lot. Oh, man, was I covering my phone? What's up? So anyway, man, I don't know how this live's going to turn out. I'm just sort of winging it, but I wanted to throw that out there about gameness. Hopefully, it'll start some discussion. Do we really understand it? Are we interpreting it correctly as a truly heart, meaning a truly game dog, only quits out of fear. A cur only quits out of fear. It doesn't quit out of other. It might quit other things, like something's happening to it, like biologically. But as long as that dog does not quit out of fear, then is it truly a cur? I don't know. Maybe we need to come up with a different term. Uh, if your dog wins, because the hog quits on top, well, your dog didn't make it quit. That hog just quit. It didn't want no more. It just wasn't deep game. But, you know, I think in the old days, when they were breeding these dogs, pride in what the best dogs were was you went into the best competition, you beat the best dogs out there that were well respected, known deep game dogs, and you made a game dog quit. If your dog could do that, it was world class. Not that you made a cur quit, you made a game dog quit. And I think that's something to think about is, did you make a game dog quit? That's something to brag about. Did you make a cur quit? Well, no, but I don't know. Is it really a cur? If the dog is match quality, is it really a cur? It was showed enough that it was worth a bet in the old days that it wasn't really a cur. It just wasn't deep game. It just quit. I don't know. Those are things to talk about. Anyway, man, I'm gonna check out, and hopefully you guys catch me next week with a different live. Later.